Yeah, I
through
already
29.
get with Carol.
Orientation.
Yeah,
You've not done
Be at
orientation.
Gaylord again?
I can't remember.
Caleb,
Except for, did you?
that would have been
It's
nice.
usually the TSA.
No, I was in,
Ours was not at Gaylord.
The only time,
I wish.
Some have it.
yeah, it's usually, the only
Man,
time
that's
it was
what-
there is when y'all went. It's
Really?
usually at the office. Yep.
It was at
That's
a,
special privilege.
you did.
Ben, that's what
It
Carol
was
was
a
saying.
nice
I'm
hotel.
sorry, Laura. It is?
I believe so. You want me to set you up?
No.
Not
No,
being
I'm good.
Clay.
Clay, big Clay.
Okay, Clay and Miss Kim,
You did
That's
good to
it.
wait,
and
Clay.
that's all?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm going in my big
You know, I was also COVID year when we did our orientation.
Let me text him.
Well, we got another number too.
So everybody gets a call,
Possible.
possibly finish it.
Yeah.
That's even nice.
It was.
So you can eat. Which one's better, chocolate or strawberry?
They're both pretty awesome, but I'll probably say the chocolate is better.
See, I need strawberry, so now that makes me.
You need to try the other one.
I need to try it.
No.
I don't eat dessert unless it's chocolate. I wouldn't.
You don't need dessert?
Unless it's chocolate.
Oh. I mean,
What's the
I don't
point?
discriminate.
What's the point of that?
Bill Ringer. Hey,
Mhm.
Jeff, don't you remember?
I just like chocolate.
I just like food in general.
Yeah, that just got sent at 7 p.m.
So do I. It's catching up with me.
It does do that.
I'll stay down.
Okay.
There ain't a page on this, is there? Oh.
If you do two fingers on this, it's much easier and faster. If you do one, it just moves the mouse, but if you do two, I don't believe it.
Probably.
You know how long it took me to learn all this stuff at South Miss?
Me
This
only
is pretty
here.
mild to the stuff.
Did you
we
see
have with
that?
all the partner
I
and,
use, I,
our MSOs and I
Oh,
have to go
yeah.
in and learn
Two
how to
fingers?
run
Did you know that?
no, I have
updates,
updates
you have
stuff.
to re-add all the stuff to it. She had my computer set
I
up.
don't even use it,
And every time I
notebook
save the
anymore,
thing,
anytime. I have a desktop now at home, and then I have an
everything's in a
iPad, so.
file.
Like, both of my kids have MacBooks.
I was lost.
I'm old school, I got my house.
He's at North Jackson, he didn't know.
Come again?
He's in North Jackson. He didn't get the same email we got. And text message. And text message. And announcement after last board meeting.
Besides all.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. If everyone will please rise, we'll be prepared for our meeting. I'm going to ask Clay if you'll lead us in a word of prayer, and Brandy if you'll lead us in the pledge.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you tonight asking you to lead us, guide us, guard us, and direct us, and making the decisions that would lead our children in your will, Lord, and help us go the way that you would have us go. Ask you would bless our teachers this year, bless our children as we start this new year. Be with us and just help us to make the right decisions, Lord, and no matter what those decisions are and who they impact, just that they're in your will and they're done with you in mind, Lord. Ask you to be with our leaders of our country and our schools, Lord. They would just make the decisions needed to guide everybody in the direction that you would have us go, Lord. Just thank you so much for the safety and for the just for all the good things happening, Lord, in our county and in our school system, and just ask you to just keep those things going and just bless us throughout the year. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, very seated. So at this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Kilser to please call the roll.
Shane Connor,
Here.
Ben Couples. Here. Jeff Harris is absent. Becky Hutcherson,
Here.
Clay Rogers,
Here.
Randy Cherry.
Here.
Got 5 present.
All right, there is a quorum present, so we will now officially call the meeting to order. And the first item tonight is a recommendation to accept the board agenda.
I make the motion to accept the board agenda.
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any discussions about the agenda tonight? If there's no discussion, all those in favor of approving it as it is, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is set. The next thing is our consent agenda, and a motion to approve that.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. There is no discussion on that. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, it is approved. First, our next thing we have is delegations, but there are no delegations scheduled to appear before the board tonight, so that will move us right into our spotlight and celebration. And this being the start of a new school year, we're just going to kind of focus on some work that has been done in preparation for the year within our system. I'll have Mr. Kilser elaborate on that.
Well, and just to add to what you read from your agenda, again, last month, you remember, we did some of what we had back on our state results for our state testing. And that has been made public for most of the information, most of the students' results. We've still got some with high school math and one of the lower grades, I believe it's 3rd grade ELA, or 2nd grade ELA. One of those 2 areas is still yet to be determined. It's coming the 1st of next month, and as that comes available, we get access to it on the 5th, I think, of September, and then the following week it's made public. So by next board meeting, we'll be having some conversation around that for you to share. What I wanted to share with you is, as you remember from our April event in Pickwick, where the strategic plan was revisited with Dr. Grissom, and where your vision, mission, beliefs, and goals were set. And then we did add to that strategic plan with specific details related to those objectives to meet those goals based on the beliefs and the mission and vision. Our district leaders, followed by our school leaders, went back to Pickwick in July, and we had an event with a group. It's a company called Solution Tree. They're a publisher of a lot of content, but one of the content areas that we went was focusing on professional learning communities, which is not a new title. It's a concept that's been around for years. But through the years of utility, in Chester I can speak to it, we've lost some of the understanding of what that means. We've used some of the same language for years, and the language primarily is all students learning at high levels, to ensure that. What we mean by that, it's easy to say, but it's hard to live when you're saying that every student, regardless of their situations, whether they have disabilities, whether they come with low socioeconomic status, whether they are challenged in any other ways, because they may not fit those boxes of issues with subgroups, but some students pick up things better than others, some struggle in certain areas that are unforeseen. But to ensure that all students learn at high levels, it is the focus of the PLC culture. And that's what we began to train with. Solution Tree was solicited. We had some resources available. It was we invited a guy from Wyoming to come in and teach us on the July 8th and 9th. And what he shared with us was some direction about next steps to take to make our school district, not just a specific school, but the school district, a professional learning community. And we are just getting that started. So it's not like we are already accomplished. This is a plan that will take years of perfection, production. But when you get into it, one of the key things that we started off with was this district level guiding coalition, and that's what's included in your board packet, where the vision of Chester County Schools Guiding Coalition is to ensure the policies, programs, practices of our school district reflect its commitment to helping all students learn at high levels. That means that with all the funding resources, with all of the specific goals that we set, SMART goals at the school level, even granular goals set by district, or excuse me, by school grade level and subject specific, all of those are gonna be earmarked or targeted for all students learning at high levels. And then simply our mission kind of mimics that same vision, where the mission of the school, of this guiding coalition, is to ensure that all students learn at high levels. We included some goals there. These goals are not necessarily right now written as SMART goals, where there is something specific to measure to know whether you've attained that goal. But what we've tasked our principals to do is to take the district leadership. Right now, our district guiding coalition consists of our supervisors of instruction and Dr. Faulkner, myself, along with the building principals, and then with the examples that we provided here of creating your vision, your mission. We also developed some norms as far as how we hold our meetings, what our goals on those meetings would be. We expect by that modeling that our school leaders will also coordinate within their school leadership, talking about their teacher leaders, their department heads, however they identify their leadership within their school, to develop their own coalitions. We are wanting to target, again, with all students learning at high levels, we're saying we're targeting those students by answering four questions. One is, what do we expect all students to learn? That takes some effort, that is not just from a top-down approach. Actually, the teachers are just as active with that to determine what is considered essential for each grade level, each subject-specific area. Second thing is how we're going to measure it. Now, when we measure it, we use case assessments, and we've shared those results with you in the past. But again, even more specific, teacher groups, as they work in teams, will develop their own formative assessments for certain specific windows of time within their instructional set, whether it's unit plans, whether it's lesson plans. But they, even with brand new learning, they set on what is essential within that new learning, how are we going to measure that new learning, and then the third question is, how do we respond as a school when the students are not learning? What do we do to intervene with those students? And again, we're not going to say that they go somewhere else, like after-school tutoring. This has to be during the 8 to 3 hour. It has to be during that window of time, because not everybody has the opportunity to stay after. And fourth question is, for those students that get it the first time, how are you going to expand their learning? Because another key group that we sometimes often don't address as quickly is the kids who get it quickly, because we want to keep them engaged in the new learning. What we're talking about is essential learning is what the needs are of all students. But we know that in some cases, students have more interest, they have more development, probably more proficiency with it, and we didn't want to have them to sit idly by as the other students are being attended to who need the more help. So it's a concept that we can all embrace. I'm probably speaking some language that Kim has already read the book 3 times over, but this is written by the DeFores, by Bob Aker. This is those who have been authors of this work for 30 plus years. And this work is going to lead us to having a culture, regardless of who's in the leadership of the schools or the district, to hopefully continue this process and to demonstrate that we are concentrating on the goals that you guys have, the vision that you have, that each student, each day, and that we are going to make sure, just like what it reads here, students are our priority, and that the positive school culture is essential for learning, and third is education as a partnership among students, family, staff, and the community. It will embrace what you guys have already developed in your strategic plan.
Will the new criteria, I guess you could call it, or the new development, will those assessments be blended into the overall assessment?
Well, the practice, what we have found beneficial is our case assessments. We'll continue to do that. But what we will do is, in partnership with the case assessments, because those spanned over the course of nearly a third to a fourth or quarter of the year. We want to do it in smaller segments, but we're starting because, again, not everybody is well versed as far as teachers and leaders about how to develop what would be considered a viable assessment to determine what they need to know. So using some resources that we have, the material that we have purchased, partnership with the Solution Tree, they've got a lot of resources that are available to us. Again, with the consultation that we had with this gentleman from Wyoming, we're going to follow it with another gentleman from Virginia, who actually has roots closer to home. His family lives in Savannah, Tennessee, and he has been partnering with the Hardin County School District for the last 3+ years. And we're going to have have a conversation with him tomorrow to look at, he's got 20 dates already scheduled in Hardin County to serve, and seeing if we can get some dates during his time here with us to guide us through the process. Solution Tree does a very serious and definite vetting process to get somebody that if you are able to be identified by Solution Tree as one of these facilitators, you have to prove it to them that you know what you're talking about, that you have led this work and not just you read the books. You have to demonstrate the work that's been done. So we're looking forward to having a conversation with him tomorrow by Zoom meeting. And eventually, sooner than later, I want him to also be a part of our strategic planning. Because you guys need to know what we're hearing. You don't need to just come at it from a budget point of view or a grand strategic plan. You need to see what we're having to do, and I think that it will echo the sentiments of what we've always said is the right thing to do. It's a win-win situation, because when our teachers and our leaders see that all the students are learning at high levels, not only is it a blessing for our families and for the students who are here, but it's a blessing for the teachers too, because that's what we all aspire to do.
Any questions about that or comments, feedback? All right. Of course, for every meeting, we do have an opportunity to have a period of public comment for any agenda item. Is there anything on there tonight? Okay, no one has signed up for that tonight, so we'll move on with the business portion. First thing we want to look at is a recommendation to the board to approve the capital projects retainage account with Centennial Bank. And I'll have Mr. Kilser explain why that is something we need to look at doing tonight.
Well, if you read your agenda, it's required by law by any project that is $500,000 or more. We have done a retainage account with Centennial for one of the earlier renovations to the high school. So we've done the paperwork with them, we've set up the account. What they need from us is reflected in our minutes, that we have set up a retainage account that is recorded in the board minutes. But again, it's required by law. It retains that 5% of the cost of the project, and that will be paid back out to the right people at the completion of the projects.
Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve this recommendation?
Make a motion to approve the recommendation.
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded to approve this capital projects retainage account. Is there any discussion, questions? If there are none, all those in favor of its approval say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it is approved. Another order of business is another recommendation to approve the addition of the board chair, which is myself, to the food service account with Centennial Bank as well, which is also kind of something for their accountability, I
Well,
believe.
it's a review.
Yeah.
When I sat down with them, with Chastity Burns to set up this retainage account, they reviewed all the accounts that we currently carry at Centennial Bank and realized that we still had the former board chair on the food service account. So his name has been removed, but to add Shane as the chairman to that account, it again has to be reflected in the board minutes. So that's the reason for the recommendation.
And that reflection provides them some accountability.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, just like today, I got called over by them because they had some glitch when one of our food staff made a deposit from their revenue, and there was some mistake on the machine that didn't deposit it all. So I had to they called me to come and sign off on a form that they have to maintain when those situations happen. So that's just another opportunity to cover all of our bases and to make sure that we've got the right people on the account.
Okay. Is there a recommendation to approve this?
I make a motion to update the food service account at Centennial Bank to our current
Okay.
board chair. Shane
Second.
Second. All
Since
right.
it's been, what, 2 years?
Yeah. Actually, 6.
That's true, that's true. I know. But who's counting, right?
Yeah. Any questions or comments on that? All right, if none, all those in favor of approving that recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it is approved. Next, we want to look at this recommendation that has come to us to adjust the 2024-25 school calendar as football season is approached, but there's a conflict that's been noticed, and I'm going to have Mr. Kilser kind of dig into that as he was made aware of this and provide some possible solutions.
Yeah, again, Brandon Pipkin, the athletic director of the high school, made me aware of it about 2 weeks before about a week and a half before the board packet was provided. I tried to provide the narrative. I went over it with Shane just to make sure it didn't sound like a foreign language what I was told by Brandon Pitkin is, again, if you're familiar with how this is done, each season, well, every 2 seasons, the football team makes arrangements and contracts with opposing teams. You have a certain level of accountability with the TSSAA where you have to pick XYZ weeks to represent the regional opponents, but then on the off weeks, you have to find somebody else. And the somebody else that they found was this Freedom Preparatory Academy out of Memphis. Well, again, you sign a 2-year contract. 1 year we go to you, next year you come to us. So that's usually the arrangement. And then the gate proceeds for their home games is what is the agreed upon revenue source for that home team. Well, unfortunately for our football team, for the season, which is scheduled for our homecoming, is when Freedom Prep was going to be played here on the 12th of October. But the school closed over the summer. So in those circumstances, the contract then becomes null and void because the school closed down. And what we were facing was a season with a 9-game regular season, which you would have 1 less game for revenue source with a home game, which happened to be our homecoming game to start with. So it had a lot of soap opera events happening all at one time. Coach DeJuan Johnson was able to find Memphis Overton to have that week open and was able to recruit them to consider coming for a homecoming opponent. So it's travel, so they're not guaranteed any revenue source because, again, they're just coming on this 1 game. So there had to be a commitment up front with the revenue source, and as I put in yours, it was a significant amount, but the actual amount was $4,000 to get them to come. That covers the cost of their travel and gets the cost of whatever their commitment is with the wear and tear on the team and the resources they have. So with that debt already realized by our own school, to get a team to come for what we had declared as our homecoming game, the request made by Brandon to me and confirmed by Coach DeJuan Johnson, because I talked to him just to make sure he was on board. The calendar reads that it's still on the 12th, but if you remember from how our calendar was set up from back in January, that the 12th represents the first day of our fall break. And there's already the expectation that several of our local families will be on travel for that time. So the request has been made to move the ball game to Thursday night. The only dilemma there was we have a parent-teacher conference scheduled that same night. We did this back in the spring where the basketball tournament play for our guys team was on the night that we had a parent-teacher conference. And it was challenging for the entire district because everybody wanted to go to the school and watch the game. But the contractual commitments that we have with our parent-teacher conference had to also be a factor. Everybody signs a contract, and part of that 200-day contract is your parent-teacher conference commitments. So what I'm proposing to offset this and allow the families to be able to consider going to the game is to move parent-teacher conference to Tuesday night. It will be a Tuesday night commitment from 5 to 8, just like it would have been on Thursday night. The only difference, or one of the major differences, is that our staff will have to return to work on Wednesday morning, but then on their Thursday, rather than having a Thursday, after their workday ends, if they choose to, they can either go to the game, hopefully, and support our home team for their homecoming game, or start their vacation a day and a half early. So that's the proposal. That's the only real shift that's changed into a Tuesday night instead of Thursday night.
Okay. So the recommendations at the parent-teacher conference, we moved to October 8th. So the homecoming game can be done without that conflict on Thursday night.
And I say one more thing, that is approximately the same date that our first 45 days of school ends. So it will still coincide with, they'll have some type of grade to be able to discuss with the students and the families. So they'll have something to discuss, to review.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
I make a motion to move the parent-teacher conference from Thursday to Tuesday night.
Second.
All right, any questions? Comments? All right, if there are none, the motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of that move, say aye. Any opposed? All right, so that calendar will be adjusted to reflect
We'll
that.
communicate that to everybody tomorrow.
Okay, and we'll send that That is the business portion. Now we move to our update section, and I'll have kind of turn this over to Mr. Kilser to reflect on. Now we have a superintendent evaluation reflection, and then some other things within the system that need to be brought up today.
Well, as I shared with you from the last meeting, when I first got the information, I was gonna be able to assess it and give you my reflection on that evaluation. Again, in my reflection, what I did was compare it to the year before, look for any percentage changes, pro or con, and then reflected on the negative side, meaning the side that where my performance was demonstrated as lesser in effect than it was the year preceding. Of the areas that had, well, we'll start with the positive. That's usually how folks like to start. On the positive side, areas to where I had a stronger reflection was in board relations, which that's a positive. I'm always hoping that I achieve new levels of success by keeping you guys and ladies informed of what the changes are in our district, both academic and budget-wise, capital projects included. And then also, I've got a very higher result in the community relations, where we have a good relationship with our local media, plus we build public support. And I think the work that we did with our Portrait of an Eagle would be a good recent example of where our community was very much involved and supportive of the work that we're doing. And we have been advertising that, and as what we've shared in our guiding coalition, going back to what we started with, we have made that commitment that one of our commitments is that we will continue to model that Portrait of an Eagle in how we operate and the management that we have by our district as far as what we model for our kids to follow. On the refinement side, which is where I added a little bit more reflection, the two areas were first the facilities and finance. The areas which show the greatest need for improvement was like I said, the facilities and the finance, with a 15-point reduction from the previous year. And again, I would have to say that rather than just telling you about it, I brought a new staff member tonight to introduce himself to you, that we've got some new commitments with, today is Brandon Tolley's first day on the job. He is a local man, has a vast amount of experience, even as a young man, with facility management. He's already met with the maintenance crew this morning, has worked with them, already got a little bit of the, I would say, the sweat, not necessarily the tears, and maybe hopefully not the blood, but just a little sweat on the job today. But we've had a good conversation today. Not to say that we're making him drink out of the fire hose, and without your knowledge, Brandon, I had some staff saying, you didn't run him off, did you? So I said, no, I think he's going to come back. So we're very excited to have Brandon here with us. He's got a 5th grader at middle school, and his wife, Erin, has got, and they've got a 3-year-old.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so look forward to having a long work relationship with Brandon. And we've got another staff member that we may be pursuing really quick. It's another person who applied for the same job who may be able to be recruited to join us. We've had some recent conversations with him. If we can gain him as one of our open slots for a maintenance crew, that would be a good addition to this package. So we look forward to the work. Again, the challenges that we have is that we're managing some schools where what we still call as a new school is nearly 30 years old. So we're managing older buildings, other than the new 2 projects that we have. But I think that with our recent work with the County Commission to get our budget passed, and the work that you guys did in the last special call meeting with that donation of that TBA in lieu of tax gift, that puts us in the good graces with the County Commission currently for a little while, that when it comes to that time, which Stacy and I were there at the meeting, and we mentioned to them that there's going to be a day when we're going to need to venture into a new school campus. And we have the property, it's just a matter of actually having the resources to invest in that. And that's going to require more than a fund balance can, or one of our short notes that we're asking the county to cover for us. But we're in good shape with that, and just like what we want to continue to demonstrate is that we're going to take care of the existing facilities that we have, make the best use of it. And I think with Brandon, with his work and his experience that he's had, and they're already the relationship he has with the workers that we have that work with him, that we're on a good track.
Any updates on the projects or activities you want to share?
Well, I don't know if you, ladies and gentlemen, have had a chance to go out to the projects, but our capital project, the Ag and the Auto Shop, the slab has been poured, we're just waiting for the metal. It's coming early in September. It's been a delay from what we had been told, but when it comes, it should be going up as quick as possible. But, you know, we might be looking at pending weather. If the weather is perfect, they're saying late February, early March before we get into that building. In my preliminary conversations with the administration at the high school and with the teachers there, the administrator said, the teacher said we might be just looking for a start of the school year. But because we don't have a real healthy break other than spring break that you can make that transition, but it's gonna be a short time in the new campus. Fortunately, also, we have, again, the partnership with TCAT Jackson. And I don't know if I mentioned it to you last, but Michael Zamora, who is one of the two in the automotive side, he's the auto body, he is a part-time TCAT adjunct instructor hired by TCAT. And because of the relationship we have TCAT Jackson and where the Tennessee Board of Regents supports those TCAT programs with resources to afford hardware, equipment for the use, there are some significant dollars that TCAT Jackson has already committed to us that can invest in that new facility. And one thing that would be a major expense would be a paint booth for the auto body side. We've already got the purchase of a top dollar hydraulic lift that's for front end alignment with our automotive side. That was through a work that Ginger McPherson and I assisted with the Spark grant that was a state grant that we got access to. We were able to afford, you know, new computers in our Misty Conaway's class or in information technology, but a large chunk of that money went into the new facility for the automotive side, for James Carter's side. And then for the other, if you notice, for the dirt work that has happened at the multi-purpose, you got your silt fence that is around. They did some soil samples, and lo and behold, there's way too much topsoil there and not enough foundational dirt to build on. So they had to cut out quite a bit. But as a blessing in disguise it is, there's all the dirt that we would need for the come-to-be springtime practice field development. It is more than enough based on, it's one of Jones Underground's guys that was out there Saturday and was talking about it. He said, you got more than enough to get a foot higher of topsoil for your practice field. So that metal is gonna be on site quicker than the Ag and the Auto. It should be there in the next week or so for the delivery. And that building should be done quicker. So when those projects are done, we'll have recognition celebrations. Rather than having a groundbreaking, we're just gonna look at our facility and make sure that we have open house for both of those, showing, you know, what we're proud of and the work that our kids will be able to do in that to gain career skill training.
Any questions? You guys have any updates or questions or anything needs to come before the board? All right, if not, that's the end of the agenda. I will remind you the next Board of Education meeting will be Monday, September 9th. It will be a 5 p.m. meeting due to the county commission meeting later that night, which we have to be represented at. So 5 o'clock, September 9th, it will be at the campus of Westchester Elementary. With that being said, this meeting is adjourned.
If there's pie left, take a piece.
You remember when we were in Pickwick, we talked about Kendall Patterson deal? Is that anything gonna happen? Or? No?
No, I mean,
He was there tonight taking pictures.
but
Bye-bye.
the spokesman part would be a challenge.
Right.
And then I know if he doesn't, well, Scott said if he doesn't, then you know, I forget what it was. Get the, what was it?
Jeff didn't do something.
Basically, he would have to provide them to him, and he just wouldn't have to hire anybody, you know, because we still have to give him the paper and get publicity, you know, but I don't know.